MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
If you're out on a hike this summer and you see one of these plants, or this plant, or these plants, well, they're actually terrible for the environment. I'm Cassidy Powers, here to tell you about noxious weeds and why we want to get rid of them.
New Mexico wildfires have now killed 2 people. I'm Duarte Geraldina with more on how storms could impact the containment effort.
I'm Megan Thompson here at the water park in Butte, and coming right up, I speak with some lifeguards and Butte's new Parks and Rec director about what's ahead for summer.
Alrighty, it is 6 o'clock on this Thursday morning. Jay McDonald and Matt Elwell with you. Funny thing about that water park opened up June 8th and
we got snow.
It snowed June 8th.
Yeah, there you go.
But hey, if the sun's out, I think the water park's going to be up.
I think we're moving in the right direction. There are some summer temperatures by the end of the weekend. By summer, I'm talking 90s.
Beautiful.
Or at least very close for the area. It's not the case this morning. Still pretty chilly. 25 in West Yellowstone, 34 in Butte. Close enough. There could be some frosty areas, basically from Georgetown Lake back toward Butte this morning, as early morning temperatures remain pretty cool. And here's part of the reason. It's clear. We've got very clear skies. The wind's picking up on campus, but beautiful conditions to start the morning. Temperatures expected to be into the 70s for the afternoon across most of the area. Very few rain chances, but we do have some chances by the end of the week. I'll talk about that and that big warm-up in just a few minutes.
All right, thank you very much, Matt. Well, you know all of those beautiful wildflowers that you see on these hikes this time of year? Well, what if we were to tell you that some of them are invasive plants that are pretty bad for the environment? Well, our Cassidy Powers explains how many of those noxious weeds are being mitigated.
Aren't these yellow flowers just so beautiful? You'll see them on most hikes in Montana. But did you know they're actually bad for the environment because they're a noxious weed? Do you know what a noxious weed is?
Sounds like it's a weed that kind of takes over everything.
Yeah, and if you were walking out on a trail and you saw this, would you think it was a noxious weed?
No.
Do you know what a noxious weed is?
Absolutely, dude.
If you were out on a hike and you saw this yellow flower, would you know this is a noxious weed?
Gosh, I'd think it was a good-looking thing, but now that you say it,
Noxious weeds spread so quickly that they'll take over an area and choke out all of the good native species that we have here.
Melissa Bradford has been in the weed killing business for 35 years. She started young, spraying on her family's farm at just 8 years old. Now she's the co-owner of PPYC Spray and Ag and knows a thing or two about noxious weeds.
They erode waterways, and there's lots of examples here in Bozeman. We've got Canada thistle, hound's tongue, oxeye daisy, Horiolisum, St. John's wort, leafy spurge.
That's right, all of those beautiful wildflowers you love to see on hikes are actually terrible for the environment. They can seriously impair wildlife habitat, agriculture, and recreational opportunities. Which is why on Wednesday, you might have seen Melissa out riding her ATV, but it wasn't just for fun.
We are out spot spraying noxious weeds on Bozeman Health property and a few of the GVLT trails.
PPYC Spray and Ag tackled the Highland Glen and Wellness Trail, the Painted Hills area, Burke Park, and the Pete's Hill expansion. And if you were planning on hitting those trails, but now you're concerned about the weed killer,
products we use have no grazing restrictions, so grazing animals can be in the field with us while we spray, and we just follow the label, and they're pretty safe.
And some of you gardeners out there may be thinking these weeds could just be pulled by hand, and we could skip the spray job altogether. But Melissa tells me
some things can be mowed, some things can be pulled, but a lot of these plants have really deep perennial roots that are 8 feet, 10 feet, 12 feet deep. Leafy spurge is up to like 30 feet deep, and there's nothing you can do with those except for actually do a selective herbicide.
In Bozeman, Cassidy Powers, MTN News.
All great things to keep in mind. Thank you very much, Cassidy. Now on the national scene, a second person dead as a result of the New Mexico fires. Officials say the flames have now burned for around 1,400 structures, and state officials say much needed rain to the region may help firefighting efforts. But they are not out of the woods yet, and the moisture is now adding new hazards for first responders. And CBS News' Duarte Geraldino has the latest from New York.
Storm clouds and raindrops in New Mexico bring hopes of relief from 2 massive fires that have charred more than 20,000 acres since Monday. But the weather also raising the threat of high winds and flash floods. Officials now warning people who live nearby, get to higher ground.
We are not out of the woods. And while this weather is helpful to the fire, not helpful to the floods.
New Mexico's governor on Wednesday confirming at least 1,400 structures have burned, and that number may include around 500 homes.
Non-stop sirens.
Christopher Bright and his mother are choosing to stay close to their Rio Doso home and wait out the blaze.
We have a few animals. We're right here next to the hospital, and we figured,
still have power, we still have Wi-Fi.
Their neighbors and thousands of other people heeded the warnings to evacuate.
We are very concerned about the potential loss of life. We know that there are several people still unaccounted for.
60-year-old local musician Patrick Pearson died in the fire. His children are now trying to convince others, get out before it's too late.
No way is an easy way to go out, but a wildfire is just so traumatic and devastating. And this isn't a joke. If they tell you to go, you need to go.
The state police are investigating the death of a second person whose remains were found in a burned car on Tuesday. Duarte Geraldino, CBS News.
New Mexico Congresswoman Melanie Stansberry says the entire congressional delegation for the state has sent a letter to President Joe Biden asking him to sign an emergency declaration for the fires. She believes that declaration, which would bring in more federal resources, could come by the end of today. Now, back in some Treasure State headlines, the chase is on. Montana wildlife often capture our attention, and a Missoula bear biologist has seen his fair share. But even he recently experienced a first, a grizzly chasing a moose in Cook City. MTN's Alina Howder has more on the shocking encounter.
Imagine your luck. You found an empty camp spot for the night near Cook City when all of a sudden this happens. A bull moose may make you reconsider your plans, but when it's followed by this bear, most of us would be packing up the car and heading for home.
As a bear biologist, not much surprises Wes Larson. He's been just about everywhere and seen just about everything.
I'd seen a number of elk calves get killed. I'd seen bears chase after a lot of stuff. I've hazed bears. I had to chase a whole grizzly bear family on foot through Jackson with a paintball gun.
But what happened last week was a first.
Jesus.
A grizzly bear in pursuit of a bull moose just a few feet from his car.
Had I been out of the vehicle close to those two, I wouldn't doubt that the bear could have switched to me as another option.
Larson had stopped by the Soto Butte campground after a day of guiding. He co-produces a podcast focused on animal attacks.
We had done a story on Tooth and Claw about a fatality that happened in that campground. It happened in 2010. It was this guy, Kevin Kammer, who was pulled from his tent and eaten by a grizzly bear, and she had 3 cubs.
But never did he expect a wildlife encounter of his own.
My music was quite loud in my car, and I thought, oh, this moose is upset because it hears my music.
One involving not one, but 2 animals on most people's wildlife bingo cards. And all of it captured on camera.
And then I turned the camera off and I threw it into reverse and backed up as quickly as I possibly could. Because I was hoping the bear had got the moose and I'd get to see this fight.
To Larson's disappointment, the moose had gotten away and the bear moved to a nearby meadow to graze.
The thing that did kind of give me goosebumps afterward was this guy had died in campsite 26. And that's the site that the moose was in and the site that the bear ran out of.
He's just relieved he was in his car, in the right place at the right time, and most importantly, safe.
It's so amazing that we share the world with animals like a moose and a grizzly bear. So if we can appreciate them instead of fear them, it just makes that experience so much better.
In Billings, Alina Howder, MTN News.
Talk about an amazing piece of video. Thank you very much, Alina. Now, it's been a chilly start to June, but as MTN's Megan Thompson reports, the lifeguards at Butte's Water Park say if the sun is out, they are ready to welcome you to the pool.
Well, it's kind of hard to believe it after the snow that we had earlier this week that closed down the water park, but it's summer and the team here at Ridgewaters is ready to welcome you. So we opened June 8th. That was our official open date. And then it snowed. And so we closed down for a little bit, but if the sun's out, we're up and running.
Stacy Butler is the new aquatics manager for Butte Silver Bow. She oversees about 70 employees, including 52 lifeguards. The majority of the young lifeguards are taking on their first job and the big responsibility of saving lives, like 17-year-old Caleb Jensen, who used to be a patron at Ridgewaters.
It's really weird to think that I was here doing dumb stuff like these kids are, and now I'm here like enforcing the rules and keeping them safe.
It gives them a type of responsibility that not very many other jobs offer. And we have a teenager who discovers that they can pull a person off the bottom of the pool who weighs a couple 100 pounds and save a life. It's transformative.
Before Ridgewater's opened just under a decade ago, Butte went for a long time without a public pool where kids could learn to swim. Sean Fredrickson, Butte Silverbow's new Parks and Recs director, says the public pool gives kids that opportunity.
It gives kids an opportunity to learn to swim, which is so important. And then the whole aspect of kids having something to do in Butte.
Yeah, summer has definitely started, and we have had some really great days, and I think that we're gonna have a pretty warm summer.
The cost to swim is $5 for kids ages 5 to 17 years old and $7 for adults. Children 2 and under are free. In Butte, Megan Thompson, MTN News.
Thank you very much, Megan. Now, a Red Lodge firefighter's remarkable story of recovery after being burned over is now commemorated in the pages of a book. Dan Stevenson defied the odds when in 2021 he was badly burned while fighting the Harris Hill fire. MTN's Andrea Lutz spoke to Dan again and the author about the greater purpose of the book.
Dan Stephenson's story is hard to relive.
He had to remind him that he was strong.
But perhaps telling it is just the kind of therapy a town like Red Lodge needs.
Dan, you also need to consider that you inspire the community, and we need one right now.
Dan was not the only tragedy that summer. That Red Lodge had suffered a lot.
That was the summer of 2021, and Red Lodge was shaken with tragedy. The Robertson Draw fire burned 8 homes. A hiker died while recreating in the Beartooth, and Dan was burned over when the winds shifted and he was met with a wall of fire.
So many people were involved in that summer, not just Dan.
Dan went through hell and back, spending 60 days in recovery, relearning to eat and walk. But then he came home.
Him coming home made it possible for everybody to breathe again because the summer had been so horrific.
He wanted to put the story on pages, so he enlisted A.J. Otgen to chronicle it.
In Red Lodge, Montana. How do you say no to a firefighter who's been burned over?
I do not share well with others, and AJ knows things about me that nobody knows.
The two of them started working, taking 21 months to get it done.
Difficult story, difficult subject matter.
This was not an easy trip, and those who know me know that, but the payback's good. The payback is wonderful.
Dan's struggles went far beyond of what we saw from him in the public eye.
He really was struggling internally, whether he wanted to live or die.
So AJ tried to put it in perspective.
And to try to get that captured and put it on the page was very difficult.
And even after all Dan went through, he knew his journey with firefighting wasn't over.
And everybody asked me, my family especially, why are you doing that?
Because it's the fire that burns inside of him, not just the kind that burns over him.
It took me a long time to get there, and I'm not going to give it up easy.
In Red Lodge, Andrea Lutz, MTN News.
I was able to speak with Dan a couple of years ago at a fundraiser just here in town. Absolutely incredible man and an amazing story of survival.
And the amount of time and reflection that he had to be able to deal with these issues and decide, you know, this is what I want to do. Let's go back and fight fires.
Yeah, I mean,
pretty
just
amazing.
Goes to show the danger that those men and women face every single day when they're out there doing that hard work. Now, before we head into a break, I wanted to share this with you. We are going back all the way to the Founding Fathers. Now, who hasn't heard of the myth, you know, George Washington cut down a cherry tree? Well, we know it's a myth, but it's something fun that we like to say. But you know what isn't a myth? The fact that our first president loved cherries and other berries. Because at his house over in Mount Vernon, these folks right here found preserved bottles of the stuff.
Oh, that is really neat.
First discovered. I mean, how incredible is that?
It really is, and obviously he was keeping him underground, trying to keep him cool. But what's really fascinating, I mean, look, they're preserved in a bottle.
Yes, I mean, 35 bottles
That's
were preserved
amazing.
right there. That's where you can see them. That's just how they were found.
Yeah, that's cool.
Pretty incredible stuff. I mean, we think we know just about everything there is to know about a lot of our
but
past.
we now know that there's a lot that we still have to learn.
Think we might just be scratching the surface there. Now, we're going to take a short break here on Montana This Morning. But when we come back, last year, Montana legislature extended
here
the
in the lobby of Great Falls High School, a momentous occasion for the MMIP task force. I'll have the details just ahead.